Great to have you joining me today. And today we're looking at a really fascinating line, and it's where the storm starts to abate. For those of you joining us the first time, we've been looking at the story of Noah and Noah's Ark. We've been looking at that through the lens of a Christian New Church perspective, which is that this is a beautiful story, and it's a story that teaches us much deeper truths than just on the surface. That flood, as you can imagine, is about a flood, and it's not a water flood, it's a spiritual flood. And what happens when we face those challenges and those worries and those fears and anxieties, and life piles up? And that could be a health issue, it could be divorce, it could be addiction, it could be any number of things that flood us. And that's what this story is really talking about. A beautiful, beautiful, beautiful story. And today, what we're going to look at is this is when part of the story where we see the pivot, and really important to see this pivot. And the pivot is moving away from the crisis phase, and we're moving to the landing phase. We're moving towards this new land. Something old has died, something new is being born. And there is pain in that shift from something old to something new. It's not an easy transition at all for us. And where does this transition start? Well, it's beautiful if you think of it like going from here to here. What's the little line right in here? And it's this beautiful little two-word line: God remembered. God remembered. And what does that mean? Well, this is from Genesis 8, verse 1. And it's the flood comes, and there's this beautiful line, and God remembered. Whoo, that is beautiful stuff. Because think about the meaning of that, folks. It's not literally meaning that God forgot, and then all of a sudden he's like, dang, I left the oven on. It's not that at all. I think a much better way to say it, as we would understand it from a Christian New Church perspective, is that we remember, God remembers. We remember, God remembers. Because this is written by us, right? The Bible is, it's inspired, but it's written with human hands. And that idea that, oh yeah, I remember God's going to remember me. God's going to remember all these little pictures of my life. God knows the very best of me, and he knows the very worst of me. He knows the very best things that have happened in my life, and he knows the very worst ones. He knows me in huge hope, and he knows me when I absolutely despair and can't find him. That idea of that God remembers is incredibly powerful. And there's a way in which that starts to pivot things, because we start to see, oh, God is here too. There's so much of this work, folks, that's going on here that is outside of our purview even. Again, like all those things we've been talking about that get wiped out with the flood. So many of those things that got wiped out are things we're not even necessarily aware of at all. And that's where we come to learn, and this is from Stanley Hauerwas, really like this line: the ability to live well is the ability to live without explanation. And we've talked about that before a little bit. And it's where we know there's all these other things going on, and we can't explain it. We don't really know it, and we can get addicted to trying to explain it. I certainly can do that. And that's not it. It's about settling into this place. Oh yeah, God knows. He even knows that anxiety I have over explanations. He holds all those things. And in God's providence, we're being moved forward. Now we're being moved forward in an eternally good sense, but it may not be that way in a temporal sense. It may not be that way this year, this decade, this lifetime. But faith is where we hold that there is this movement towards something beautiful, and that something beautiful is heaven, a heaven from the human race. That's the whole point of providence. And I love this idea, folks, with God remembers. It's so easy for us to forget that God remembers. And yet we have to remind ourselves, this is a beautiful line that Emanuel Swedenborg writes here: the Lord is closer to us than we can possibly believe. The Lord is closer to us than we can possibly believe. I love that line. We go through this despair. We feel like God's not remembering. God's forgotten me. I'm on the outside looking in. And the fact is, it's the famous Footprints on the Sand poem. If you haven't read that, you can Google it after this. That's just like, even there, God is holding us, and that's a very powerful place to be. And God is with us. So with that, what I wanted to do to close my little thought today is to read you this prayer. This is from Kate Bowler. I put it up on my Facebook page as well, because it's a very powerful prayer from her. God, I am fumbling around for answers, reasons, meaning. I can't find any purpose in this pain. Why me? Why them? Why now? I don't know when this is going to get better, or if I will ever feel relief. Blessed are we who need to be reminded that there are some things we can fix and some things we can't. Blessed are we who can say, my life isn't always getting better. Right in the midst of pain and fear and uncertainty, may we hunt for beauty and meaning and truth together, not to erase the pain or solve the pain, though surely that would be nice, but to remind us that beauty and sorrow coexist. And that doesn't mean we are broken or have been forgotten. There's that remember thing. In our hope, in our disappointment, in our joy, in our pain, God is here, and we are never, were never, and will never be alone. A beautiful sort of testimony to God's remembering and us remembering that God remembers. So that's what to think about, guys. Just remember, like God remembers. He's got a picture of you right up on the refrigerator. He understands all the challenging parts. He holds us through it all, and he travels with us through all those journeys as we start to land this arc. So I hope that makes sense, friends. And what we're going to do right now is we're going to do a little prayer, a little blessing, and then we'll say hi to folks on social media, as well. So with that, our little meditation here. So I ring the prayer bell. You get a chance to just breathe until you hear the prayer bell end. Be still and know that I am God. Be still and know that I am. Be still and know that I. Be still and know that. Be still and know. Be still and. Be still. Be. Our Father, who art in the heavens, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, as in heaven, so upon the earth. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we also forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you, bring you peace, bring you home. Amen. All right, dear friends. So what we're going to do now is take a look. Take a look with, let me see here, pull up our service here, and we'll be looking at comments, folks, either on the Facebook Live page for New Church Live or on my particular page. We can look at comments there as well. All right, saying a little hello to people here. Linda, good morning to you. Sherry, good morning from Tennessee, and thank you for the kind little note yesterday afternoon. Patricia, great to see you today. And Mary has written, I have forgotten. God is with us. Thank you for that beautiful reminder. Yeah. And Mary, man, it's like, this makes you teary. Like, right? Like, we just have to get that. Like, it's so clear God does not lose track of us. And we lose track of God all the time. But it's incredibly important to keep coming back to that message. Betty writes, good morning. You've spoken to my soul the last 2 days. Thank you for being here and delivering a much needed message. Have a peaceful day. Same to you, Betty. Marcus, good morning to you, bud. Jean, good morning. Hope you're doing well. Linda writes, it's easy to forget that God is with us and that he remembers. Beauty and pain do coexist. Prayers for my daughter, Christy, admitted to the hospital, was most likely heart issues. Thank you. And we will definitely keep Christy in our prayers today, Linda. Thanks for making note of that. Shannon writes, so beautiful and so powerful. Thank you so much. It really is powerful stuff when we start to get it. And sometimes I reference books or reference different things. Shannon actually texted me yesterday for a book reference. I'm glad to give that stuff and highly recommend, Kate Ballard, Stanley Hauerwas. You take a look at the podcast they recently did together. You'll see a lot of these themes there that are super powerful. All right, so let's take a pull now on the new on my own little page. See, you've got some comments there. We got a number of comments there. Len, great to see you this morning. And I loved the picture of all the grandkids. So ridiculously cute. Melissa writes, God is always with us is so comforting. Beautiful poem. Thank you for sharing. And it really, again, I recommend the podcast. Just incredibly deep. Sherry writes, good morning, and good morning to you, Sherry. Carl, my dear buddy out in California, my prayers these days are not so much about painful circumstances I've experienced. I feel very blessed with kindness and caring, and I'm deeply troubled about the suffering, painful, poorly served experience and hardships they are going through. Yeah, and that idea, Carl, right? Compassion just opens up in our hearts, in times of challenge. It's pretty amazing the way God's economy works that way. All right, friends. Well, thank you very much for joining me this morning. I wish you all the best. God bless. Have a great day. Bye-bye.